Good Monday, Cup of Sales Joe. Let me ask you a few quick questions to frame our discussion today. First, what are your current expectations for yourself? And where do they come from? Think for a moment what you expect for your present and your future and why you expect that. Second, how much do those expectations shape your everyday? Are there times when you are operating in a disconnected way from your intentions, your hopes, your dreams, and goals? And lastly, based on how you form your expectations and how you live up to them, how authentically are you currently truly living? I know the answer may vary based on when you ask yourself these questions or where you find yourself. But the reason I'm asking these is because I think these answers are key to understanding what motivates and drives us. And I want to work through these questions with the help of someone who has faced these questions, and the answers form his music. If you don't already recognize it, this is the band Mammoth, founded by famous rock musician Wolfgang Van Halen, son of legendary guitarist Eddie Van Halen. Talk about expectations forming well before he could probably even speak. Wolfie had the world waiting to see what he could do. And I just recently myself got into Mammoth, and I have to say, I'm enjoying them a lot. And I hope you will too, as I give you a few samples while we talk about expectations, how we use them, and how to work with them most effectively. The reason I ask how your expectations are formed is because we all have expectations for ourselves, for others, and the world. And sometimes those expectations are reasonable and smart. And at other times they are not. They are not realistic, and they create hard feelings, disappointment, frustration. And while we may say we expect more of ourselves than we do anyone else, the truth is that we are the only thing we can truly control. So, expectations should be rooted in that fact, that while we may have expectations of others, we cannot control what others do. But that doesn't stop us from having those ideas of what we think others should do and be. But much like Wolfgang and Mammoth, having high expectations coupled with allowing people to be who they are, well, that is a good way to live. If you listen to Mammoth, you can hear echoes of his father, but if you didn't know, you wouldn't mistake Mammoth for a new Van Halen. They have their own sound, and Wolfgang has created something different and good that, at least for me, meets those high expectations, but maybe in a way different than most of us would have anticipated. How much do you leave freedom and openness as to how you and others meet expectations? Let's reverse engineer this idea of utilizing expectations in a positive way to get us where we want to be. And I'll use my experience in triathlon to frame it. Of the three triathlon disciplines, swimming, biking, and running, I am by far the most capable and competitive in the swim. Running and biking are about equal for me, but because the swim is the first discipline in order, it means that typically I will be in a good position comparatively to other people when we transition from the swim to the bike. Now, while that sounds great, the truth is that there are plenty of people who are more capable than me in the bike and the run. And so starting with my strongest discipline also plays with my expectations. Without getting into the strategy and dynamics of competing in triathlon, I usually spend the rest of the race, biking and running, losing positions. I spend all my time on land being passed by people. That's not the greatest way to compete, but it does play with what I expect in a race and what success looks like. Do you sometimes do that with your goals? Do we sometimes set our expectations high, but then when faced with challenges and things we may not be able to control, fail to adjust? Or maybe we just fall short? For my situation, I could do one of two things. Either feel bad that all I'm doing is losing positions most of the time, or what I hope you take from this message is that I should stop comparing myself or my situation with others. I mean, I know it's easy to compare ourselves to and with others, and it's very prevalent. But maybe you, like me, have heard the quote before: comparison is the death of joy. While both Mark Twain and Ray Cummings have been attributed to this quote, the best information shows that it originated with the 26th President of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt. But even before that, the sentiment goes back to ancient Rome and Stoic philosophy. It originally was meant to state that we are poorer if all we do is look at what others have in comparison to what we have. And the way to combat this is to practice gratitude and contentment for what we do have. But is there a chance that comparing ourselves to others does have utility rather than feeling a feeling of lack? Think about how comparing your situation to others may actually be a productive and positive thing. And no, I'm not just talking about when you know you have or have done more than others. What I'm talking about is the art of opening our minds to what is possible. We've tried so hard, it's time to let you know. What if, instead of seeing someone who has more than you or has something you want but don't have, you see it as a learning opportunity? What if you utilize a strong growth mindset that maybe if what you truly want they have and you don't, you can learn from them? Maybe find someone who's accomplished what you want to accomplish and take clues. This takes the sometimes unavoidable act of comparison and turns it into something akin to an education. What is it they have or have done or know or can do that you currently cannot? And how can you gain or develop that yourself? Now, don't get me wrong. If in fact comparing yourself to others does create for you feelings of lack or inadequacy, let me suggest a different comparison that is healthier and easier to work with. The comparison of you today versus you yesterday. This is an act that focuses back on what we can control, our own focus, behavior, and growth. Even if you are a step or two behind where you used to be. Think about where you're headed and how you can get there. Most people overestimate how much they can accomplish in a day, a week, or a month, but severely underestimate how much they can do in 6 months or a year. That's because reaching our goals and meeting expectations doesn't normally happen in one big effort or in one day, but in consistent effort over time. And that is where many times we fall short. But if we break that down and just focus on being a little better than we used to be each day or each week, well, that's when you will be surprised where you wind up over time. And when the lights start fading, take a bow, it's over for me. Now, if Wolfgang Van Halen had paid too much attention to all the comparison to his father, or just tried to be what his father was, he wouldn't have been able to create something of his own. And Mammoth is Wolfie's creative musical talent in full bloom. I hope you've enjoyed digging into this music and discussing how comparison can be either a limiting activity or a positive, growth-minded habit. And it just depends on how you use it. And as always, have a great week. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, did you love that music as much as I did? And did you like the message about expectations? Well, if you did, but you want to know a little more, then join me on my YouTube channel, Cup of Sales Joe, and look up Expectations, another cup, as I talk more about how to utilize our expectations to grow.